Figured it out.
Hold on. Okay, welcome to our journey to independence. The subject matter today will be the chain of title. Now, chain of title um, deals with entities. In other words, the way words are formed, the way they're spelled, if they're upper and lowercase letters, if they're all uppercase letters, if they're all lowercase letters. When you go into changing an entity, what happens is the entity will turn will change the course of events or the course of history. So let's start with the Declaration of Independence, and we have here in Congress July 4th, 1776, and we have the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. Now, right here on the 13 United States of America, you have this entity right here, the 13 United States of America. When you have that lowercase u there and the uppercase s of all lowercase and a, that is an entity, especially if you start it with the word the. Okay, now if you go down here to the bottom, you'll see another one that says the United States of America. And then there's a lowercase u, and then an uppercase s, and an uppercase a. Now what happened is they entitled the document the 13 United States of America, and then as it went through the document, they changed it to the United States of America. And when they did that, they changed the name of the country, just right there. What this should have said is, we therefore the representatives of the 13 United States of America, just like it says in the title, the 13 United States of America, just like that. When they changed it, now the representatives of the United States of America have not declared independence. And that's how you can change the entity really, really quick. Okay, you're able to unmute. All right, you there, Stu?
I am.
Okay, and Thomas?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so do you guys see that? See the differences?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, so when you're looking at that, that makes a huge difference, especially when you're taking on the responsibility of independence. Huge difference. If they would have just put the word 13 in there, that would have been okay. Or they could have said, we therefore the representatives of the United States of America as amended in General Congress assembled, then that would have connected that entity with this entity right here. And then you would have had a complete document. There's another one. So what we had to do was obviously fix the Declaration of Independence to read as amended from this entity here to this entity here. Then it came up, this was in 1776, so in 1781 they came up with the Articles of Confederation and decided that the name of the country is going to be the United States of America. So the style of this Confederacy shall be the United States of America. And that was the name of the country. The problem is this particular document, which was the Articles of Confederation, did not have a Declaration of Independence. And this Declaration of Independence did not have an Articles of Confederation, because these two documents were two completely different documents. That was the first problem in the country. So we had to fix that. So we decided on the United States of America. And then what happened is England, the Dutch, all of them came in and changed the entity again. So it says, it having pleased the divine providence to dispose the hearts of the most serene and most potent Prince George III, they like a lot of titles, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, France, Ireland, Defender of the Faith, Duke of Brunswick and Luneburg, Arch-Treasurer and Prince of Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, etc. That's what that means, etc. And of the United States of America. Now they just changed the they just changed this T from upper and lowercase letters to lowercase letters. The United States of America. Now, there's two specific things. This particular entity here did not exist yet. That entity did not exist until 1787 or 1789. Notice the date over here, September 3rd, 1783. So 6 years later is when this particular constitution was written. This country did not exist. Further, the Holy Roman Empire, this right here, dissolved in 1806. Most people believe that the Holy Roman Empire has everything to do with the Vatican, but it really has nothing to do with the Vatican. It had something to do with all the kings coming together and being able to be electors within that Holy Roman Empire organization. So there's one thing: Arch-Treasurer and Prince Elector of the Holy Roman Empire and of the United States of America. Now notice that this particular entity right here did not exist yet. And then they come down to something that's pretty interesting. It says the several states which compose of this union, okay, that was the union that was created here under the Articles of Confederation. So far as at least as regarded their municipal regulations, become entitled from the time when they declared themselves independent to all the rights and powers of sovereign states, and did not derive them from concessions of the British King. The Treaty of Peace contained a recognition of the independence of these states, not a grant of it. The law of the several state governments passed after the Declaration of Independence were the laws of the sovereign states, and as such were obligatory upon the people of each state. That's kind of weird, isn't it? They recognize the independence of the states, but this particular constitution had not existed yet.
Seems to me that they jumped the gun.
That's the weird part. It sounds as if they're making up something they already knew was going to happen, and they were completely ignoring this particular confederation.
And it also shows no chain of title from the Declaration of Independence to the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution.
Right. Now take a look at this. It says, whereas the delegates of the United States of America here in Congress assembled, there's that lowercase t, but yet the style was this here. This had not existed yet. That's weird, isn't it?
Very weird.
So they had made two different countries, two different governments. That was the whole plan.
Seems like it.
And they said this particular confederacy shall be the United States of America. That's where the sovereignty of all the independent states, each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence, and every power, jurisdiction, and right, which is not by this confederation expressly delegated to the United States in Congress assembled. And that's where I got see the comma there? I always use the comma. When we reference this in Congress assembled, I always use that comma. And you have to be specific. You can't remove that comma. If you remove the comma, you have a problem. So what it appears like is if the United States of America, all the states were moved over under the independence and the sovereignty thereof was moved under this particular entity right here. Yet it appears right here as if this entity in Congress assembled was something completely different, but yet this doesn't appear until what, 1789, under a completely different constitution and everything. So what we have to do is we have to realize that the independent states are under this particular entity here. The non-independent states are under this particular entity here, under the federal. And that's why you have two separate governments within the country.
And that capital letter means everything.
Absolutely everything. You can't, because the Congress that was under the United States of America had a comma with it. If you change this little thing here or this thing, you've changed everything. So
So
they can't do any of that.
I'm
So
seek,
that's where we're at.
I'm just seeking clarification. So what you're saying is that although they specified the United States of America, capital T, the United States of America, they also had in the introductions a different entity named, ready to go, yet it hadn't been founded yet. The United States of America, small.
Right. My yeah, that haven't even been done yet. There wasn't even a constitution there yet
Even though they're
with
even though
that entity in it.
they're referencing it in the document, but it hadn't really been established yet. That's what you're communicating to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's
That entity had not been established at all. Because go back and look at the Declaration of Independence. You've got this right here, and then you have this right here, which is two separate entities. And so,
both,
people will, what's that?
and they're both lowercase u as well.
Yeah. So this Declaration of Independence did not have a constitution. It never did. There was no Constitution of the United States of America, period. This entity right here, nothing, never existed. This Constitution never existed. The only one that did exist would be this right here, the United States of America. And if you look at all the other ones, it also says the same thing, the United States of America. Even though it's written here, it looks like all caps, but really it's written as upper and lowercase letters. That's the intent when they have the high A, the high S, or the upper A and the upper T and upper U. It's completely different. And if you see other documents from talking about the Confederacy and the Articles of Confederation, same thing. It's all upper and lowercase letters.
And if you go back to the Constitution part of it, then you'll also notice too that there's no royalty allowed, yet they made the king the arch treasurer.
Of the United States of America. Isn't that weird? Same entity.
Yeah. Why would they make the king the arch treasurer after they defeated him in the revolution? That makes no sense.
So it looks like that there was a plan to move all the independent states from these delegates, to move all the independent states over to this particular entity here, and then they move along or move on with this entity here. With their own. So they're just saying, everybody get out of the way. Okay, you can have your sovereignty and independence and everything else. Just go over there, you can have your independence, and we'll move on with this entity and we'll change it here. And believe me, folks, anybody that's listening to this video, royalty, they know chain of title and they know entities. They don't do things like this on accident. Because you have Benjamin Franklin coming in as a post office or postmaster general, and now this same entity here and here is claiming Benjamin Franklin, and then all of a sudden Constitution of the United States. Out of nowhere. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Did it stop sharing?
No, it's still live.
No, I mean sharing screens.
Yes.
So it stopped sharing screens, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sorry folks, we're learning how to use this thing. So this is the first broadcast, so we need a break. Okay, so now if you look under the I'm looking up the Constitution of the United States. I would normally have these documents open right away, but it's not, for some reason, it's not showing up in the share screen section. Okay, now, here we go. This is going to show everybody what we're talking about. There it is right there. Okay, can you guys see that?
Not yet. There it is.
Okay. Now, it says, we the people of the United States. Now there's a completely different. I thought it was of the United States of America. Because the style of the Confederacy is what? The United States of America. And that's where all the independent states are. Now they want to form a more perfect union. They're still talking about this same union, okay, which is right here, perpetual union, upper and lowercase letters. So they're still trying to do that, and then they come in with the do ordain and establish this Constitution for, here we go again, the same entity. This same little entity that was never in the Declaration of Independence, just so everybody sees it, right here, that entity was changed. It was not in the Articles of Confederation except for right here. Then it was changed right here when they declared the style. So that means the country was the United States of America. That's where all the independent states went to. Okay, and then this is where that entity comes up again, the United States of America, with the arch-treasurer as its arch-treasurer. Then it recognizes the several states that compose of this union. So there's union, union here, same union. So these entities are correct when they're dealing with the union, right? As far as leases regarding the municipal, become entitled from the time when they declared themselves independent to all the rights. So they mentioned they notified the independent states, and they said that they were sovereign states doing business under this entity right here. Because this was 1778, and the last Articles of Confederation was done in 1781. I'm just showing you the 1778 one. Okay, so you've got the original states. Here it is right here. The original states. They weren't granted independence. They were accepted under this entity here. But yet it was this entity here that was doing it. That just so happened to be a part of this Constitution. They had already declared this style. But guys, look at the entity. There it is right there. It's not in the Declaration of Independence. So if you're going to look at this from a, what do you call it, a underwriter point of view, somebody that does underwriting, in other words, they clear your home title, your title, the title of your property. They go back and check and see whether there's a bunch of claims to it or not. When you look at this, this is how, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is how they would look at it. Okay, or if you're going to do a business, in other words, if you're gonna register this business right here, okay, or you're going to register this business right here, and you have this different entity within it, that will be considered two separate businesses. So there would have to be two separate registrations, one that read the United States of America and one that read the 13 United States of America. That's how you'd have to do it. So this would have to be registered. This would have to be registered as separate. Anybody that does businesses and registers businesses, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This would have to be registered separate. And this would have to be registered separately. That would be a separate business from this. And by the way, the 1781 does, I know it says caps there, the 1781 is upper and lowercase letters. Okay, so all the independent states went under this business here. They do business under this entity here. This entity that didn't exist yet established it. Right here is the other one, the Arch-Treasurer and Prince Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, etc., and of the United States of America. They wouldn't have they wouldn't have had of there. They would have said and the United States of America, because they were talking about the between the United States of America and His Britannic Majesty. Remember, they didn't have this. This entity didn't exist yet, or it did within the preamble, but they changed it here. Does that make any sense to you guys?
Not at all.
Only if you're trying to create confusion.
A lot of confusion.
Is it that the people back then couldn't read, or what it was? I don't know, but they really did create a lot of confusion, enough to make it so that they thought that they were fighting a war that they won.
That's what I was thinking. But they really messed around with the paperwork.
Yeah, there has to be some significance to the idea that an entity that didn't even exist is acknowledging the capital T, the United States of America, right? I mean, how can that possibly? These guys weren't. These guys were educated people.
Mm-hmm. They were running a Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, but you also have to remember all the people that got killed for actually signing that Declaration of Independence. So they're probably the ones who knew what they were writing.
Right. So if anybody here, in other words, if anybody's claiming all these different entities like the United States of America and everything, you guys don't have a constitution. You cannot associate this constitution or this entity with this constitution. It's a completely different entity. You can't associate this entity here with this constitution of the United States. It doesn't work. Once they began to use the style right here, the United States of America, that was the name of the country. You couldn't change that. ISO even recognizes that. That's International Standardization Organization. They recognize that. It's not the name of the country is not the United States. So if you want your independence, you have to become a citizen and or national of one of the states in order to do business under the United States of America. Not this one right here, because that's where it was moved to. And when this one finally had a constitution over here in 1789, that's when the federal started. What do you call it? That's how they moved that constitution in to take over the states, where the states had two constitutions. One was state, one was federal. And those states became non-independent states. So the independent side of the country would be here, under this entity doing business here. But we can talk about this, I mean, I've got some other videos I want to do to show people the differences and how it works throughout the ages and how things were moved around. But if you don't know chain of title and you don't realize that one little T can change a whole document, then you'll be completely lost.
They never taught that in school. They taught proper names and things like that, but they never ever taught entities. That wasn't one of the things that they discussed.
Right. They never changed. They never did that. I can show you articles of Confederation where the upper and lowercase letters is in there, and that was what it was intended to be. So if those independent states were moved over under that entity, what happened in 1868 that everybody talks about turning into a corporation? Guys, that's not true. Because what happened is American society was created within the independent state under a separate constitution. There's your answer. So that's why they call it an American society. You have citizens or American nationals on one side of the state, within the independent state, and then you have a completely separate society that's been built within that state under the federal constitution or under the U.S. Constitution. and everyone became society members. The only thing that keeps you within that independent state under the United States of America is an oath and affirmation to that independent state or to the United States of America, upper and lowercase t. And if we show this to everybody that sees it, they're all looking at us, oh my God, why didn't I see that before? And their paperwork is all screwed up. They don't know the difference that there's an American society, and then there's a compact agreement with citizens and nationals. So next time, what we'll do is we'll try to cover the General Post Office and how that all works in. And it's amazing to watch the chain of events that happen.